Roman Reigns set for chaotic street fight against Bronson Reed at Crown Jewel. This is absolutely insane, and if you're not terrified for Roman Reigns right now, then you clearly don't understand the level of danger and chaos that's about to unfold at Crown Jewel 2025. The Tribal Chief is set to face Bronson Reed in a no-holds-barred street fight, and this isn't just any match. This is a career-threatening situation where Roman is facing an opponent who has nothing to lose and everything to gain by destroying the most dominant champion in WWE history. If you think Roman is going to walk out of Saudi Arabia with his streak intact and his body in one piece, you're living in fantasyland, because what I'm about to expose will prove that Bronson Reed is the most dangerous opponent Roman has ever faced. Comment right now if you think Roman Reigns is walking into a death trap at Crown Jewel, because the stipulation announcement has sent shockwaves through the entire WWE and everyone backstage is saying the same thing. This street fight could end the Tribal Chief's reign in the most brutal and devastating way possible. This isn't about championships or accomplishments, this is about survival, and Bronson Reed is a man who specializes in destroying people. The carnage we're about to witness will change WWE forever. Let me break down exactly how we got here, because the path to this street fight announcement is filled with violence, disrespect, and escalating brutality that made a normal match impossible. It started 3 weeks ago when Bronson Reed interrupted Roman Reigns during a Tribal Chief address to the WWE Universe. Roman was doing his typical dominant speech, acknowledging his greatness, when Reed's music hit and the Colossal walked out looking like he was ready for war. Reed didn't waste time with long promos or psychological games. He walked straight up to Roman, got in his face, and said 5 words that changed everything: "I'm coming for your throne." The audacity of Bronson Reed, a man who hasn't held major championships, who isn't part of any legendary faction, who doesn't have the pedigree of Roman Reigns, to declare himself a threat to the Tribal Chief was shocking. But what was more shocking was that Reed looked like he meant it. Roman, being Roman, laughed it off initially. You're going to take my throne? Boy, you don't even deserve to look at this throne, let alone sit on it. You're not bloodline. You're not family. You're not worthy. The dismissiveness in Roman's voice was typical Tribal Chief arrogance, but you could see something in Bronson Reed's eyes, a darkness, a rage, a willingness to do whatever it takes that should have made Roman reconsider his approach. Here's a trivia question for the real fans: what is Bronson Reed's signature finishing move called? Drop your answer in the comments. What happened next was shocking. Reed didn't respond with words, he responded with violence. He hit Roman with a massive headbutt that sent the Tribal Chief stumbling backward. Before security could intervene, Reed grabbed Roman and hit a devastating power slam that shook the entire ring. The Usos rushed out to help, but Reed fought them off with a ferocity that was almost scary to watch. This wasn't wrestling, this was a man attacking with intent to cause serious harm. It took multiple security personnel and several referees to finally pull Reed off Roman, but the damage was done. The Tribal Chief was left lying in that ring, holding his ribs, the image of invincibility shattered in seconds. Reed stood at the top of the ramp, breathing heavy, and said into the camera, "That's just the beginning. I'm going to break you, Roman. I'm going to take everything from you." The following week, Roman demanded retribution. He wanted Bronson Reed fired, suspended, something to punish him for the attack. But WWE management, sensing money in this rivalry, instead offered Roman something different: a match at Crown Jewel with Bronson Reed. Roman accepted immediately, confident that he could destroy Reed in a sanctioned environment and prove his dominance once again. But Reed had other plans. During the contract signing for their Crown Jewel match, Reed made a demand that stunned everyone: he wanted it to be a street fight. No disqualifications, no countouts, falls count anywhere, weapons legal, everything goes. The logic was simple and brutal. Reed knew he couldn't beat Roman in a traditional match where Roman has every advantage. But in a chaotic street fight where rules don't matter, that's where Reed thrives. Drop a comment: do you think Roman Reigns made a huge mistake accepting the street fight stipulation, or is this just another challenge the Tribal Chief will overcome? Let me know. Roman should have said no. He should have declined the stipulation and demanded a regular match where he controls the environment. But Roman's ego got in the way. He couldn't back down from a challenge without looking weak. He couldn't refuse without admitting that Bronson Reed might actually be dangerous. So Roman accepted the street fight, and in doing so, he might have signed his own death warrant. Paul Heyman begged Roman to reconsider. Multiple backstage sources report that Heyman spent hours trying to convince Roman that accepting a street fight against Bronson Reed was strategically stupid. "My Tribal Chief, you have everything to lose and nothing to gain. Reed is a brawler, a street fighter, someone who thrives in chaos. This plays directly into his strengths and away from yours." But Roman wouldn't listen. "I'm the Tribal Chief, Paul. I don't run from anybody. If Bronson Reed wants a street fight, I'll give him a street fight. And I'll prove to him and everyone else that no matter the stipulation, no matter the environment, Roman Reigns is unbeatable." That confidence, that certainty, that arrogance might be Roman's downfall. Because here's what Roman isn't acknowledging: Bronson Reed is built for street fights. At 330 pounds of pure muscle and power, Reed can use his size as a weapon in ways that most wrestlers can't. In a no-rules environment, Reed's style becomes devastatingly effective. Think about the weapons Reed can use. Steel chairs become even more dangerous in his hands because of the force he can generate. Tables aren't just for breaking, they're for destroying opponents. Steel steps become projectiles. The announce table becomes a platform for aerial attacks that would crush anyone unfortunate enough to be on the receiving end. Every element of the arena becomes a tool for Reed to inflict maximum damage. Roman's advantages in a traditional match, his technical skill, his experience, his strategic mind, matter less in a street fight. This becomes about who wants it more, who's willing to go further, who can withstand more punishment. And based on everything we've seen, Bronson Reed has a higher pain threshold and a greater willingness to sacrifice his body to inflict damage than Roman does. Quick question: in how many street fights or no DQ matches has Roman Reigns competed during his career? Test your knowledge below. The physical matchup is fascinating and terrifying for Roman. Reed has a significant size advantage, he's heavier, more powerful in terms of raw strength, and his center of gravity makes him incredibly difficult to move or manipulate. Roman's usual offense, Superman punches, spears, might not be as effective against someone of Reed's size and durability. Reed's offense, on the other hand, is devastating against anyone regardless of size. His tsunami splash alone has ended careers. When you add weapons to that equation, when you put that move through a table or off a ladder, it becomes potentially lethal. Roman's body, despite his impressive physique, is still human and still vulnerable to the kind of punishment Reed specializes in delivering. The psychological aspect is also crucial. Roman has been dominant for so long that he's developed a certain invincibility complex. He expects to win. He expects opponents to eventually crumble under the pressure of facing the tribal chief. But Bronson Reed doesn't seem to feel that pressure. Reed seems energized by the challenge, motivated by the opportunity to take down Roman in his absolute prime. Reed's pre-match comments have been chilling. Roman Reigns has beaten everyone. He's conquered legends. He's destroyed challengers. But he's never faced someone like me. He's never faced someone who doesn't care about his legacy or his bloodline or his championship. I just want to hurt him. I want to break him. And in a street fight at Crown Jewel, there's nothing stopping me from doing exactly that. The confidence in Reed's voice is what makes this so dangerous for Roman. This isn't bravado or false courage. Reed genuinely believes he's going to destroy Roman Reigns. And when someone believes something that strongly, when they're willing to sacrifice their own body to achieve their goal, they become unpredictable and extremely dangerous. The Bloodline's role in this match is complicated. Under normal circumstances, the Usos or Solo Sikoa would interfere to help Roman. But this is a street fight where interference isn't really interference, it's just part of the match. So theoretically, the Bloodline could help. But Reed has made it clear that if anyone from the Bloodline gets involved, he's going to target them too. He's going to make them suffer alongside Roman. Tell me your prediction: will the Bloodline interfere in this street fight, or will Roman insist on facing Reed alone to prove his dominance? Sound off below. There's also the question of whether Reed has allies of his own. Is someone going to even the numbers if the Bloodline tries to help Roman? Is this going to become a multi-person brawl? The unpredictability of a street fight means literally anything can happen, and that's what makes this so must-see and so potentially dangerous. The venue adds another layer of intrigue. Crown Jewel is in Saudi Arabia, which means different cultural expectations, different crowd reactions, and potentially different creative approaches to storytelling. WWE has historically saved some of their most shocking moments for Crown Jewel because they know the international audience and the significant financial investment from Saudi Arabia demands something special. A street fight between Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed at Crown Jewel checks all those boxes. It's violent enough to satisfy fans who want brutality. It's high profile enough to justify the premium event status. And it has the potential for shocking moments that will be talked about for years. The betting odds are interesting. Roman is obviously the favorite because he's Roman Reigns, the face of WWE, the longest reigning Universal Champion in history, the Tribal Chief. But Reed's odds are better than most of Roman's recent opponents, suggesting that even oddsmakers recognize this as a legitimately dangerous match for Roman. Smart money is on Roman winning, but not without significant damage. The question isn't necessarily who wins but what condition they're in when the match ends. Can Roman survive this street fight with his body intact? Can he continue his reign after taking the kind of punishment Reed is capable of delivering? Or does this street fight end Roman's historic run by injuring him so severely that he can't continue? The medical staff at Crown Jewel is reportedly being briefed to prepare for a catastrophic situation. Street fights are inherently more dangerous than regular matches, and when you combine it with two men of this size and intensity, the risk of serious injury increases exponentially. WWE's medical protocols will be crucial to ensuring both men can compete safely while still delivering the brutal spectacle that fans are expecting. What's your honest take? Should WWE even allow matches this dangerous, or is the risk of injury worth the entertainment value? Let me know your thoughts. The historical context of Roman's reign makes this match even more significant. Roman has been champion for years. He's beaten everyone from John Cena to Brock Lesnar to Edge to every single challenger WWE has thrown at him. His legacy is already legendary. But that legacy could be tarnished if he loses to Bronson Reed in a street fight. Think about it, if Reed wins, the narrative becomes Roman Reigns' historic reign ended when he foolishly agreed to a street fight against an opponent built for chaos. That's not the way Roman wants to be remembered. That's not the legacy the tribal chief has spent years building. The pressure on Roman to win this match is immense. But the pressure on Reed is different. Reed has nothing to lose and everything to gain. If he loses, people will say, well, he tried, but Roman is just too good. But if he wins, Bronson Reed becomes the man who ended Roman Reigns' historic reign. He becomes an instant main event star. He becomes a legend overnight. That kind of motivation is incredibly powerful. The match structure is fascinating to speculate about. Street fights can go anywhere: backstage, into the crowd, up the ramp, through the concourse. Crown Jewel's venue offers multiple environments for chaos. Do they start in the ring and gradually expand the battlefield? Do they immediately take it outside the ring? Does Reed try to avoid prolonged technical wrestling and instead focus on weapon-based offense? Roman's strategy has to be complicated by the fact that his usual game plan doesn't necessarily work in a street fight. He can't rely on the Usos providing a distraction for a referee while he recovers. He can't count on traditional near-falls and kickouts building drama. This is about damage and survival. Roman needs to adapt his approach, and adaptation has never been his strong suit. He's succeeded by doing what he does better than everyone else, not by changing his style. Reed's strategy is simpler and more brutal: hurt Roman early, hurt Roman often, and don't stop hurting him until he can't continue. Use weapons to maximize damage. Target Roman's ribs, his back, his legs, make him feel pain that he can't just tough out. Break down the tribal chief piece by piece until there's nothing left but a broken man lying in the wreckage. Here's a spicy question: if you could choose one weapon for Roman to use and one weapon for Reed to use in this street fight, what would they be? Drop your creative answers. The aftermath of this match is going to be huge regardless of who wins. If Roman wins, he proves once again that he's the most dominant force in WWE and that even in his opponent's preferred environment, he's still superior. But he'll likely be damaged, which creates vulnerability for future challengers. If Reed wins, the entire WWE landscape shifts overnight. The Bloodline's power structure becomes questionable. Roman's aura of invincibility disappears. And Bronson Reed becomes the hottest commodity in professional wrestling as the man who conquered the unconquerable. The possibilities for either outcome are endless and exciting. That's what makes this match so compelling. It's not just about the violence and spectacle, it's about the consequences. This match will have ripple effects throughout WWE for months or even years. The fan anticipation is off the charts. Social media is exploding with predictions, fantasy booking, and speculation about what will happen. Crown Jewel 2025 was already a must-watch event, but this street fight has elevated it to potentially legendary status. International fans are particularly excited because street fights are rare in modern WWE, especially involving someone of Roman's stature. This feels special in a way that regular matches don't anymore. WWE has successfully created a sense that anything can happen, and that's the sweet spot for generating interest and excitement. The merchandise opportunities are significant. Imagine limited edition Crown Jewel 2025 shirts featuring Roman vs. Reed in a street fight. Imagine collectible figures depicting the match. Imagine posters and promotional materials that capture the intensity of this confrontation. WWE stands to make substantial money off this match if they market it correctly. One final question before we wrap up: who do you think is walking out of Crown Jewel 2025 as the winner, Roman Reigns or Bronson Reed? Give me your honest prediction and your reasoning. The legacy implications for both men are staggering. For Roman, this is about maintaining his historic reign and proving that even when the rules favor his opponent, he's still untouchable. For Reed, this is about establishing himself as a legitimate main event player and proving that size, power, and brutality can overcome even the most dominant champion. The build to this match has been phenomenal. WWE has created genuine uncertainty about the outcome, which is rare when Roman is involved. The violence has felt real. The stakes have felt enormous. Crown Jewel 2025 is going to deliver one of the most brutal and memorable matches in recent WWE history. Now I want to hear from you, the Wrestling Newsletter family. Tell me in the comments. Who do you think will win this street fight? Who do you think should win? What's the most brutal spot you're expecting to see? Will the Bloodline interfere or will Roman go it alone? Is this the match that finally ends Roman's historic reign? What weapon do you most want to see used? Smash that like button if you think Roman Reigns is walking into his toughest challenge yet. Destroy that like button if you think Bronson Reed is about to end the Tribal Chief's reign. We need maximum engagement on this video. Subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter because we'll have complete coverage of Crown Jewel 2025, including full analysis of this street fight and all its insane moments. You don't want to miss a single second. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know because Roman Reigns vs Bronson Reed in a street fight is going to be absolutely chaotic and everyone needs to understand what's at stake. Roman Reigns is facing his most dangerous opponent in his most brutal match environment. Bronson Reed is ready to destroy the tribal chief. Crown Jewel 2025 is going to be catastrophic. The street fight is set. The carnage is guaranteed. And wrestling will never be the same after we witness what happens when the tribal chief faces the colossal in no-holds-barred warfare. This is going to be legendary.